welcome back to CEEN Caribbean News and to In Depth. The issue of correspondent banking relations is one of the key topics being discussed at the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting underway in Guyana. It is feared that if international banks decide to withdraw their relations with regional banks, it could destabilize Caribbean economies. That threat is believed to have been born from an expressed need for international financial institutions to reduce reputational risks and comply with international regulations against facilitating the funding of criminal organizations. On this In Depth, we try to understand what correspondent banking is and how deeply it relates to the region. To do this, we have been joined by economist and lecturer Dr. Andre Haughton. Welcome to In Depth, Dr. Haughton.
Yes, always a pleasure. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Listeners.
Now, Dr. Haughton, what is correspondent banking?
well, basically, you have a bank and you're established in a particular country, and you want to conduct business in a country that you are not established. So what do you form an alliance with a bank, a local bank there, and they act on your behalf. For example, NCB in Jamaica is not established in the USA. NCB must have a bank that conducts business on NCB's behalf in the United States. Now, that is what is referred to as correspondent banking. For example, if you want to send a wire transfer, say to someone in the United States, it must go through a correspondent bank with the particular bank that you're sending it from.
Now,
Following?
Yes, I'm following. What are some of the transactions that local banks need a correspondent relationship with an international institution to conduct?
Yeah, the wire transfers are one of the most prevalent. You know, a lot of money passes through the wire per day from country to country in the international financial system. Overall, businesses need to invest in other countries. People who work in one country, they need to be paid. Goods and services contracted from other countries also need to be paid for. So the correspondent banking makes sure that the free flow of money across international borders is up and running.
Is the fear that if international banks end their correspondent relationships with regional banks, it could have a devastating impact on regional economies? Is it a rational fear?
Yeah, it will, you know, because what you realize is that now we're looking at capital mobility. What you want the free flow of capital at minimal cost. You see, where if international banks close whatever arrangements they have with domestic banks, then domestic businesses, domestic firms, domestic individuals who conduct business with foreigners will find it very difficult to do so. As a result, it will put additional pressure, for example, on the Western Union and the MoneyGram, so to speak, and then now there will have to be some other intermediary established for them really. But I don't think that this is just a threat, you know. I don't think it's something that is feasible at this time, given the objectives of both domestic and global banks. I know that Jamaica is way behind in terms of regulations. The world is at Basel III, moving to Basel IV. We are still at Basel I. So our regulatory framework is very poor, and it needs to be improved. So I think this is just a credible threat to let us know that, yes, we do operate in a global platform, but at the same time, the world, if the business that we conduct with the rest of the world is not huge enough to have an impact, then the world might leave us behind. So it's a very serious scenario. You see what's happening with the UK, you see what's going on there with Brexit. So it's now for us as CARICOM to see our purpose, see exactly what we need to pull ourselves forward, what regulations are necessary for there to be homogeneous rules and regulations straight across the board for us to meet international standards. Work hard within the Bank of Jamaica and the other Caribbean central banks to get our financial system up to Basel III in quick succession so that we can continue doing international business.
Now, you know that this threat is being made to kind of force the region's hand to get up to par with the rest of the world in terms of legislation regarding financial institutions. Could you see this in any possible way as a threat to force regional institutions to kind of bow to the pressures other than those stipulated by FATCA?
No, it's not really bowing, it's just really doing what is necessary to make sure that your business transactions are credible. So remember, with international flow of funds, banks and international businesses, given the terror threat, given also the threat of money laundering, given the illegal activity, given drugs, given guns, there are a lot of handicaps that put the Caribbean region, for example, at a disadvantage. So we really, in terms of regulation, need to get up to par with what is, and it's going to be good for us as well, because what will happen is that we will now have a better way of understanding the true flow of capital across the island.
Now, CARICOM has declared that the threat to end correspondent banking relationships is an economic assault, tantamount to an economic blockade against CARICOM countries. Do you agree with that stance?
You see, I've said this several times, and the more time progresses, the more people try to take what I say more seriously. The world is at a global economic war, and it's a scraps for scarce resources. And as long as people don't see where your business relationship is beneficial to their growth and the improvement of the profit objective that they have no problems leaving you behind. And the Caribbean, remember, we've been a leading exporter of sugar in the early days. We've always played an important role in global commerce in some way, shape, or form. So it's always good now for us to look at the niches we have, look at what the world cannot do without us. So if we supply that, then we become an integral part of global commerce. So they will take our economic well-being into consideration. Otherwise, you're left to fend on your own.
Do you think it was a smart comment for CARICOM to make?
Pardon?
Do you think that comment, that the threat against correspondent banking relations with the region, it being an economic blockade, do you think CARICOM as a unit should have made such a comment in light of several countries just coming on board with FATF regulations and with a lot of scamming prevalent in the region?
I don't really get too much into the politics of everything, I try as best as possible to keep it economic straight up. So, but politicians have their opinions. Everyone is free to say what they want. What we need to look at is what amount of work is being done, and not the amount of lip service that is being paid to certain issues. So we definitely have to be more serious in our approach as a nation, as not just Jamaica, but as the Caribbean region. As you already know, CARICOM as a trading bloc has the smallest amount of intra-regional trade. Following, so in terms of what is happening, you realize that most CARICOM countries have the same thing to supply to the rest of the world. So it's just Trinidad, for example, that might have oil to sell to the rest of us, and then Jamaica purchase this, and so on and so forth. So we really have to look at our relationship with CARICOM, see if the funds that we've been sending to them is being used efficiently, and we must have CARICOM straighten their belt.
Now, earlier you mentioned that legislation is one of the ways in which the region can protect its correspondent relationships with international financial institutions. From an economic standpoint, what else can be done at this stage?
Yeah, at this point we have to take it step by step. I mean, if we have to think about the level of volatility that is taking place in the domestic economy, how the level of depreciation at the nominal exchange rate. We also have to look at our interest rate policy and overall our macroeconomic governance, because that is going to send the signal that the Jamaican economy is becoming more and more stable, and it is somewhere safe for investors to put their money somewhere that they can get a meaningful return. because that is where global commerce is headed, and that is where global financial instruments are headed, straight into commodities. So we have to, first and foremost, look at the commodities we have, what the world cannot do without, and then we use that commodity to strengthen our relationship with the rest of the world.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Haughton.
Yes, it's always a pleasure.